All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will go ahead and get started. I know there are 3 other committees waiting on quorums right now just to have a meeting, so we're going to try to do our part and move along. There is a sign-up sheet down front. Neither of our bill sponsors are here today, but that's okay. We've got everything taken care of. But we have a young lady who is here who needs to hop on the interstate and try to get back to doing business as a good taxpayer and small business owner. So we are going to allow her to come up to the microphone. If you will, just tell us who you are, who you're with, and obviously she is here to speak to House Bill 1232 that Representative Reeves is carrying.
Well, first I'd like to thank you for calling me a young lady. And my name's M.B. Strickland, and I am co-owner of Vintages Wine Shop in Lawrenceville. And I'd like to thank y'all for taking up this bill. This is an antiquated law that needs to be addressed. It's being applied inequitably across the state. We are not allowed to be open on Sunday to pour wine because we don't sell 50% food. We do sell about 20% food, but the Aurora Theater across the street from us sells potato chips and peanut M&Ms, and they're allowed to pour a glass of wine on Sunday because the theater is owned by the municipality. So at some point, the municipalities granted themselves a privilege that none of the rest of us are allowed to cash in on, and it would be good for our business and for the tax base as well, both in the city and the state. So we really appreciate y'all addressing this issue and taking it up and considering it.
Well, thank you very much again for being here from Gwinnett County. We appreciate that. Again, the bill author is stuck in judiciary presenting another bill, but thank you for speaking on behalf of this, and safe travels and good luck with business.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. With that, I believe that yep, you're hiding back there. Vice Chairman Gaines, if you have any comments that you would like to open with, that's fine. Otherwise, we can go directly to our. Go ahead. Microphone is yours, sir.
No, I'll just be brief. I know we already kind of talked about this bill extensively, but House Bill 1260 to try to address what we've seen with the vaping issue across the state. When consumers go into stores, they expect what they're getting is regulated and legal. And as I showed the other day, you can just get illegal vapes anywhere in a lot of different places. And we worked hard with the convenience stores and others to try to get this language right. And since the bill presentation earlier this week, I've heard from law enforcement, retailers, and parents of children that have expressed support for this, and just want to thank you for your consideration.
Absolutely. Thank you. With that, we'll turn to our public comments, and we have 7 folks. So if you heard Speaker Burns this morning talk about morning orders and the fact there's a little red light will come on, well, there is no little red light here, but again, everybody is vying for committee members to be there. So if you could just keep your comments brief. So we'll just go down the list in the order everybody signed up. Lisa, Susan, and Jeremy in that order. So Lisa, if you will, join us. Again, if you all don't mind, when you get to the microphone, tell us who you are, who you're here on behalf of, and present your comments. Thank you.
Sorry, just a moment. Hi. Hello. My name's Lisa Gano, and I'm here on behalf of, I own, with my husband, we have VR Labs, which in the past did manufacture e-liquids. We've been turned down by the FDA, and so I no longer manufacture e-liquids, but I also have 6 retail stores from in Atlanta, Cartersville, Woodstock, Ackworth, and just received my business license for one in Jasper. This bill, I'm trying to understand. I'm not against regulation. We worked with Department of Revenue when we had the excise tax. So I'm trying to understand how this is going to be put forth and how it's going to work. In looking at, I understand about protecting children. We already have the 21 plus, so they have to be 21 to even purchase it. Vape shops are excellent in making sure, our smoke shops are making sure that only adults are either entering their stores or purchasing these products. The vast majority of underage sales are coming from convenience stores or gas stations. And this is seen even on the FDA's website on how many on underage sales. So if we could regulate these to only being sold in vape and smoke shops, then that would be a lot less as well. And the penalties for selling, if somebody sold a pack of cigarettes to an underage person, the penalty is a letter, a warning letter. There's no fine, there's no money, they get a letter. From what I read, for alcohol, if they sold alcohol to an underage, it's $1,000 and could be up to a year in jail. If we want to protect our children and making sure these sales aren't going through, I think the fine needs to be more attention grabbing. Because even the child right now, I believe, is penalized. If they purchase underage, they have to do some community service. But the people who sell it, they only get a letter. That needs to be stronger. As far as the PMTA, it's a faulty process. I've discovered that. I put mine in on time. I did everything I was supposed to do, and they randomly declined everything except for the things that ended in the word tobacco or menthol. It was a flavor ban. They said they would help small manufacturers. That did not happen. It was a de facto flavor ban of everything but tobaccos or menthols. And that came back last week or 2 weeks ago saying that I could not do those anymore as well. So I can no longer manufacture that. But my retail stores will be out of business and my 21 employees will be out of work. I will have 6 leases around my neck because with the things that will be left, we have 3 big tobacco companies. They are the only ones that have things that have gone through market approval. And of those, I believe it's around 23, 27 items. Some of those are batteries. Some of those are refillable pods. Not all of them would receive the excise tax. The excise tax that the state has been getting, which is millions of dollars a year now, is drastically going to be reduced. The other part is how this is going to be enforced, because I believe I was reading on the updated bill that you have to have a minimum of 2 unannounced visits to make sure people are only selling what they're supposed to be selling. I don't understand how the state is going to visit every smoke shop, vape shop, convenience store, gas station that sells these products twice a year, and then come back if they're not compliant, and they have to come back and do another unannounced visit. How is the state going to pay for this? How are they going to enforce it? I think there needs to be a lot more study done on this to make sure of how it's going to be done, and to make sure it's done correctly and not penalize the adult users of our products that have used it to get off cigarettes. So they're not, we have so many people die every single year from smoking cigarettes. So we need to have a better alternative for these people. The devices that are approved, some of them go up to, they say 6%, that's 60 milligrams of nicotine. This right here is the most often type of nicotine used. It's 3%, or excuse me, it's 3 milligrams, which is 0.3%, not 6%. With this bill, you're going from 6% to 0. That is going to make it very difficult for somebody to step down. The type of the devices the gentleman had who introduced the bill were disposables. Those normally come at 5%. I respect disposables. I know they're a harm reduction. I don't like them. I keep them under the counter. I don't want people to see them in my stores personally because I'd rather them get something else. These are items that I do sell in my stores. These are bigger. This one cost $100. Kids aren't getting this. This one costs $70. Kids aren't going to get this one either. This one is $20, but you also have to buy, it's an open product where you put liquid like this into here. It does not come with an e-liquid in it. The way this bill is written, this could not be sold in my store. This couldn't. This could not be sold. All of these are vapor products. So it's not just making the e-liquid illegal, it's making every single thing else illegal as well. And this is where it's going to hurt. There's things that we can do to protect our children that will not penalize the adults that are using this product. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you. Susan?
Good afternoon, committee members, and thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. My name is Susan Stutzman, and I'm the owner of Siggy's with 2 locations. One's in Dallas, Georgia, and the other one's in Hiram, Georgia, both in Paulding County. I'm also a board member of the GVA, which is the Georgia Vape Alliance here. My first location opened in 2012. That was almost 12 years ago. I'm a wife, a mom, a small business owner, vape advocate, former PTA member, as well as former room moms. I am testifying to you today with a different perspective. I am sure by now you have received all the data showing you how harmful this bill, HB 1260, would be. That when smoking is at an all-time low, that youth vaping in our great state has decreased by 14.9% between 2019 and 2021. The existing state vapor product directories have been subject to litigations, and as of yet, no enforcement is happening. Several states have already defeated this same bill, seeing it in the wolf's sheep clothing as it is. Those states would be Iowa, Wyoming, South Dakota, Arizona, and Maryland, as well as the rise of the black market, which we all witnessed to during the Avali vaping fiasco. I want to share with you a personal success story. My favorite story is the one that's very close to me, as it's about my husband and father to our 2 kids. He smoked for 30 plus years. 10 years ago, he quit vaping altogether, smoking and vaping. He started out with a flavored 18 milligrams of nicotine, worked his way down to 12 milligrams, 6 milligrams, 3 milligrams, 1.5 milligrams, almost there, and then finally 0 milligrams. Once he realized that he no longer was addicted to the nicotine, he quit vaping altogether. This year will be his 10 years of being a vape nicotine-free. I always boast about this industry and myself because I love it, because this is an industry where I get to say I'm super excited to lose a customer to a success story like this, where our customer is still living and enjoying life, unlike the alternative where tobacco cigarette companies lose a customer to heart or lung disease and are no longer with their loved ones. I have personally converted thousands of customers from smoking cigarettes to vaping. It's what I am passionate about. I never go to work. I go to my shop after 12 years of being in it, and I still love it every day. I currently, on this device right here, vape 3 milligrams of nicotine in an open system device. I would no longer have this option and be forced to vape tobacco flavors, whereas I have a coconut cream in here, yuck. High nicotine, which I'm at 3, and I would have to purchase these items from a gas station or a convenience store, since vape shops would no longer be in business. Vape shops offer a step-down process, as I shared with you in my husband's success story. Just wanted to show you a picture of inside a vape shop. Everything on this side right here, everything that's red would be banned. These 3 little things right here would be what's allowed. Everything on this side over here is going to be, that would be high nicotine, as opposed to anything that's low nicotine. So as you can see, anything that's low nicotine over here is going to be banned. In comparison to a gas station photo, this one right here would be everything that would be approved into a gas station. And over here, all of those same items are high nicotine products. I'm a visual person, which is why I printed these off really fast this morning. Thank you. Altria wants to keep vapers hooked on their high nicotine devices to recruit from the loss in tobacco sales. HB 1260 will be devastating to my shop and other shops like mine. Only big tobacco products would be approved, and they are the ones who opened our eyes and mine to open shops for a healthier alternative, as we know how detrimental smoking cigarettes is. One last final point I would like to state is that they state these directories will help the sales to minors. However, between 2018 and 2023, vape and smoke shops made up only 5.4% of violations to selling to minors. We do a great job of not selling to minors. Just talk to my 18-year-old son and his friends who explain to me which gas stations that they can go to and that will sell to them underage. This legislation is redundant, and it would be a burden on our taxpayers. Lastly, it would force adult vape users back to smoking, as their options to e-cigarettes would be limited. Cigarette smoking is at an all-time low. Do we really want adults to return to smoking? Thank you for your time, and I passionately ask you to oppose HB 1260.
Thank you. Seeing no questions from the committee. Jeremy? Angela, you'll be next. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Berry. I'm an attorney for Georgia-based retailers and wholesalers in the vape industry. Our collective clients have over 100 brick and mortar stores, employ hundreds of employees across Georgia, and annually pay almost $3 million in tobacco and excise taxes a year. I personally am the father of an 18-year-old son and a 15-year-old son. If the intent of this bill is to keep the industry safe, it doesn't do that, or it doesn't do that completely. Instead, this bill stifles competition, eliminates innovation completely, and reduces taxes that the state of Georgia will receive to $23,000. $23,000. We highly recommend and urge that this committee amend the legislation, which I'll discuss in a minute, or frankly, push for a study committee to slowly study and understand the impact of what would happen under HB 1260. Again, this legislation as drafted unduly limits vape products in two respects. The first is in lines 33 through 38. The definition of timely filed pre-market tobacco product application. Again, lines 33 through 38, and I'm working off LC 365715. The definition for timely filed pre-market tobacco product
Excuse me, one second. One second. Could you give me that LC number again?
Sorry. It's 365715.
It's not the most current version.
Well, then I'll get the most current version. Thank you. I'm now working off 36576S.
That's also not the most current version.
Well,
Okay.
Well, my guess is it's. What lines was it? Well, in 5715, it was lines 33 through 36. The definition of timely filed pre-market tobacco product
And
application.
remember the,
32 through 35 now.
And does it still define the TMPTA as limited from August 8th, 2016, submitted to the FDA on or before, to products marketed? Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. I'm now working off LC 365788S.
yes,
Do you mind if I write on this, Mr. Chairman? Okay, thanks.
your copy, by all means.
Thank you. Now working off 365788S and lines 32 through 35, timely filed pre-market tobacco product applications is limited to those products that were marketed as of August 8th, 2016, that were submitted to the FDA on or before September 9th, 2020, and accepted for filing. That limits, and I think one or two of the prior speakers explained this, that limits this to 23 products total. If I were to create and submit a product today for FDA review, it would not meet this definition. This committee would stifle competition and innovation and discourage those, particularly in the synthetic nicotine market, from new products. Because all you're doing is grandfathering a subset of products from 4 years ago. Those products are from 3 large tobacco companies, not from the mom and pops in Georgia, not from the smaller companies, but the 3 large tobacco companies. Those are the only 3 that would be allowed under this legislation. Further trying to monopolize the market, let me just see which lines I'm on, is working from lines, I guess it's 66 through 72, again on version 365788S, lines 66 through 72. The bill is limiting, as drafted, to only those products that have submitted a timely filed pre-market tobacco product application to the FDA and the application either remains under review by the FDA or has received a marketing denial order that has been and remains stayed by the FDA or court order. Again, that's 23 products. The legislation also ignores federal legislation, H.R. 2471, the Consolidated Appropriations Act, which was passed in 2022. That federal law mandates that the FDA can regulate synthetic nicotine products. With synthetic nicotine products that are regulated by the FDA, that's a whole nother line of products that would not be allowed under this current legislation. So under the current version of HB 1260, if a product was created and submitted to the FDA after 2022, it could not be sold. Again, if a new product were developed today and submitted to the FDA, if HB 1260 were enacted, it could not be sold, thus stifling competition. The FDA has authority to regulate this and is already regulating in this industry. The 11th Circuit in 2022 said there's a problem with the PMTA market and threw out a court case because the FDA is arbitrarily enforcing these rules. Out of the 6.7 million products that have been submitted, the PMTAs to the FDA by the September 2020 deadline, again, only 23 were granted marketing orders. All of those are owned by big tobacco companies. So again, if the state wants to create a monopoly, then that's HB 1260. If the state wants competition, if the state wants small mom and pops, if the state wants retailers, then we need to take out these severe restrictions. If the state wants $23,000 in tax revenue, and that's 23 products times $1,000, that's HB 1260. As I said, our clients alone pay $3 million in excise and tobacco taxes. Again, respectfully, and in the interest of time, I understand folks have different places to be. We recommend a study committee. Let's slow the process down, figure out how to properly regulate the vape market. Again, I'm a parent of 2 teenage boys. We want regulation, but we also want competition. Those two things are not mutually exclusive, but this bill eliminates competition. So let's have a study committee and slow things down. Or we can provide language to amend it that actually opens up to the market and those applications that are actually pending.
Thank you, sir. If you would, our bill author would like to ask a question.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I had just a couple questions, and I've just been sitting back there listening to the last few presenters, and I just wanted to point out a few things. So this legislation would not limit it to just 23 products. In fact, in Alabama and Louisiana that had passed this legislation, there's almost 1,400 legal products, and the FDA actually created the definition on line 32 to 35. Those are the only products that are currently legal to be sold in the United States. So what we're doing with this bill limits our legislation in Georgia to what is actually legal. So I guess what I'd like clarity on is, is how do you come up with only 23 products will be legally able to be sold once this bill passes?
Mr. Chairman, a couple things. First of all, the Louisiana legislation, like you may know, is in litigation, and a court issued an injunction stopping enforcement in Louisiana.
Some of that, though, was unrelated to the contents of the bill, is because multi-subject matter, but go ahead.
Understood, but it's in litigation, so it's not enforced. The FDA will allow products, particularly the synthetic products, where applications have been submitted and remain pending. This legislation, as drafted, takes that out and only says to the products that, well, now I've lost which page it is. Well, again, the definition of TMPTA, lines 32 to 35 eliminate it, but also lines 66 through 72, because it's talking about products that have been submitted a timely PMTA, so again, those are the products in 2020, or remain under review by the FDA or have received a marketing denial order. So there are millions of products that are currently under appeal that would not fall within either of those definitions.
If they are under review, if they're pending, they are legal under this bill.
Respectfully, we disagree and don't think that's the case.
And that's fine. We're not going to litigate that or debate that now.
Not looking to, but I think that's, Mr. Chairman, I think the rub. We're happy to provide a language that we think would address the situation.
Be happy to
again, and I know it's the third time I've said this. As a parent, I understand and respect and appreciate the need to clean up the industry. That's not, and regulate it. That's not what we're not trying to avoid that. What we are trying to avoid is eliminate, in our opinion, the competition in the industry.
Thank you.
Understood. And again, we can all agree to disagree, if you will. So, Angela, if you will.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't know if there were further questions.
Oh, no, sir, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And then Ben, you're next, and then Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members. I'm Angela Holland. I serve as the president of the Georgia Association of Convenience Stores, and we appreciate working with the bill sponsor and all the work that you've put into it, and Sean Marie too, bringing it forward. I do want to address one of the statements that was made earlier, and I want to make sure I'm very clear about there are over 6,000 convenience stores in the state of Georgia. We represent roughly 2,000. Last year, in 2023, and all this information is on the FDA website, there were 3,790 FDA compliance checks in Georgia. 3,554 of those passed, so there was no violation. Only one of my members even received a warning letter. So I think we do, and I think, when you have only 36 fails in the state, I think the industry does a fantastic job of underage sales checks, and it's by far one of the best in the country. So, but we appreciate the bill sponsor, and we think that a vape directory gives the industry a very clear, bright line as to what is available for sale and what is not.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Seeing no questions from the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief for everybody's time, but I'm Ben Coward. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs at Georgia Retailers. We've been representing the retail industry in the state for more than 60 years. And on behalf of our members, I'd like to thank Representative Gaines for all the hard work you've done on this bill. A state vapor registry would play a vital role in providing some clarity to retailers and consumers and reduce the risk of unknowingly selling illicit products. The state already has and maintains a directory for cigarettes that are lawful to be sold. HB 1260 would essentially just do the same thing for vapor products. Increased transparency and accountability would go a long way in protecting consumers from the dangers of illicit products. And thank you for your time, and ask for your favorable consideration.
Seeing no questions from the committee. Thank you. Steve? And then Catherine, you will back clean up and close us out.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Steve Callahan. I'm with Altria. Thank you for the time. I'll make my remarks brief to be respectful of everybody's time here. Look, this is a common sense a way to address what is a very significant issue. Today, over half of the vapor market is illegal. Many of those products, the vast majority of those products, are coming from foreign countries who thumb their nose at every rule and regulation that is made by the FDA. So we've heard a lot of talk about PMTA processes and FDA's processes. These manufacturers don't even play in that space. They just ignore it, and they dump their products, they smuggle their products into Georgia and to other states across the country. So we believe this is a common sense solution that will allow retailers to know what they can lawfully sell, what they cannot sell. And as you heard referenced earlier, 4 states today have these directories in place. Many other states are actively considering this. There are over 1,400 different products available in Alabama. There are more than 600 products available in the Louisiana directory. So again, we think this is a common sense solution that will let retailers throughout the state of Georgia know what they can lawfully sell and what they can't sell. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no questions from the committee, Vice Chairman Gaines, if you have any parting words that you'd like to. Oh, sorry. I did say that, didn't I, Catherine? My apologies. You're hiding over there behind the.
Good afternoon, committee members. I'm Catherine Russell from the Department of Agriculture. I don't think I've ever testified in front of you guys, so thank you for welcoming me. I just wanted to share a couple of things from the department. This is kind of a big lift, and so we were being very careful in evaluating it. We love that there's a provision in the back of the bill that requires that this is all subject to appropriation. We just want to make sure that it's pretty clear. We think this is going to cost several $1 million, and not just at the onset, but as a recurring fee or as a recurring cost to the department. And we do think that it's going to work really well with one of the things that we're looking to get from the legislature this year, which is enforcement ability over hemp products. So that'll put us in a lot of the same stores where they'll be selling vape products, but we don't quite have it yet. So that is something that so it would be good if those two things can pass together. If they don't, and the vape registry moves forward and the hemp products enforcement does not, it may adjust what it's going to cost the department a little bit. So I just would like to kind of point that out to be mindful of moving forward. We support the thinking behind this bill. We've been working with the author and with the interested parties, and we have an ongoing dialogue about really how to figure out how we're going to make all the logistics work together. But we've appreciated their cooperation and continue to work forward with them.
Thank you. Seeing no questions from the committee. Now it's your turn.
Well, I'll be really brief because I know we've heard from a number of folks, but I do just want to again point out that this bill does not limit sales in the state just to the 23 products that have been approved. It does include what the FDA legally allows to be sold in the United States today, which is pending products that were submitted before the time listed by the FDA. That's not a definition that we made up. That's a definition the FDA has. All this bill does is something that is legal to be sold in the United States today will be sold legally in Georgia today if this bill passes, but products that are not sold legally, which, as you've already heard, like, for example, the most popular vape product in the United States last year was from a Chinese manufacturer that's illegal. And so what we've got to do is crack down on illegal products, and that's what this bill does, while ensuring that legal products, when consumers go into a store, they know what they're getting, is legal and approved, and that's what this bill does. Retailers, again, you've heard from them. They've been great to work with on this issue to make sure that it is addressed to the Department of Ag's questions. And the only other thing I'll mention that is the change in this substitute from the last one we had is we took out the requirement for 2 unannounced visits, because you've heard about how this would be would take some work from the Department of Ag. So we're working with them to make sure that, one, the appropriations are there, but also make it a reasonable effort that they can undertake. And so I did want to point that out, as well as this bill would bring in some revenue with the fees required in order to be on the registry.
Questions from the committee for the bill author? Seeing none, committee members and Vice Chairman Gaines, here's my posture and my belief. I've always, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It didn't light up. Here's where I want to be. I do believe that more heads are better than one. I believe that we've heard some very compelling things from both sides of this coin. I know that you have, as we've seen, there's been multiple versions of this bill. I think this is a matter that the full committee should hear about and should have input on and should have the opportunity to work on. I believe by bringing that full committee together, we're going to get some different pieces of input. And my request of you, should this committee be willing to, is that you would continue to work on this and take into account the things that were said today. You know,
especially if any folks here have potential language changes, I'm more than open to it. This is a working, this is something we want to get right, because I do think it's important for especially children across the state. So we're more than happy to work with any interested parties to get this thing right.
I believe you when you say that, and I know that Chairman Powell would hold you accountable for that and would expect nothing less. So, Representative Bennett?
Do pass.
A motion that House Bill 1260 do pass. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. House Bill 1260 LC 365788 by substitute do pass. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Representative Reeves, if you will, join us at the microphone. Committee members, this is a hearing only on this bill, so I know people are waiting on you, so feel free to depart as necessary. Representative Reeves, I will tell you that Your friend has already spoken today,
Thank
so we
you.
could get her back on the road. But the floor is yours, and I'm all ears.
Thank you, Chairman Dubnik and members of the committee. I present to you House Bill 1232, the Sunday wine bill. It is in the form that was originally filed, so the LC number that's on the web is the current one.
Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, we still got one more bill that we're trying to hear, so if you don't mind, just exit stage right quietly. Thank you.
Thank
Please
you,
proceed, sir.
Chairman and members of the committee. This bill was brought because I have 3 cities. One of the 3 cities' clerk brought up to my attention an issue about Sunday wine stores or Sunday wine bars, that there was kind of an anomaly in Georgia law that if a restaurant that serves beer, wine, and liquor but has food, they could operate, whereas a wine store next door to them that just does wine and cheese or very light refreshments that is not 50%, they had to shut on Sundays, but the store next door was still serving wine. So pretty much every day this session I've worked on this issue. I thank Legislative Counsel, I thank the Department of Revenue, I thank many people in the alcohol industry to help get me educated on what the situation is. The landscape right now for private parties to serve alcohol on Sunday is breweries can serve alcohol on Sundays without regard to food. Quote-unquote restaurants can serve alcohol on Sundays as long as they have 50% food. What this bill does is it says that a wine store or wine bar, if there has been a Sunday sales referendum and if the local jurisdiction permits it, they can operate and sell wine on Sundays just like they can Monday through Saturday without regard to whether they have 50% food. It is a very narrow bill. We now have a market of wine stores around Georgia. The ones in my district are Sip Happens in Swanee, Gwentage Wine Bar in Duluth, and you heard from a businesswoman from Vintage Wine Store in Lawrenceville. This bill honors the 3-tiered system in the Georgia alcohol landscape. The wholesalers would be able to sell to these wine stores just like they do Monday through Saturday. They would just get to sell more now. Any makers and manufacturers in Georgia would have one more day of customers for their wine. These are retailers who are doing a great job Monday through Saturday on their wine stores, and they request the ability to do that on Sunday as long as the people have approved Sunday sales in the jurisdiction, as well as the elected officials enacting an ordinance pursuant to this new law, House Bill 1232. I will say there was a request from many in the alcohol community, keep this bill narrow and focused here and throughout the process. They have my commitment to that, and we commend the bill to you. It will promote small business, and these are stores that are doing a great job 6 days a week, and they would serve less alcohol than their neighbors that might serve hamburgers or something like that when they're serving just a glass of wine, and people can buy a bottle of wine and take it home with them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, sir. And as chairman of the House Wine Caucus, nobody loves a bill about more wine than I do. If I could, just ask a couple of clarifying questions for the record. On line 14, you mentioned that this is subject to adoption of a resolution or an ordinance. So as you referenced, any municipalities or counties where it is lawful,
that's right.
This is not us coming in. This is us telling
That's
them
right.
they have the opportunity to then pass an ordinance. Is that
Absolutely
correct?
true, Mr. Chairman. This is not any preemption. This still requires the referendum as well as the local elected officials to approve of it pursuant to a request by a small business who they get to vet and examine, as does the Department of Revenue.
Second question, along that same line, this would not impact that municipality's ability to dictate the hours in which that is sold. So I know in some municipalities, they allow Sunday sales earlier rather than later. That's I don't remember what year that was.
I believe there are some state law minimum parameters on that, and so this would not at all infringe on that. This would allow the locals to permit the wine stores to open in compliance with state law. It would not abrogate any state law restrictions on that. These wine stores just want to be able to sell on Sunday afternoon and evening just like they do on Saturday afternoon and evening.
Understood. Last question, if you will indulge me. Line 19, pursuant to this title, sells wine but not any other alcoholic beverages.
That's right.
So as you have stated clearly, this is narrowly tailored and defined to be specifically for wine, correct?
Absolutely. No liquor, no beer. They can go down the street for that. These are narrow stores. You could look at the ones from Gwinnett I mentioned. There are some in Athens. There are many around Atlanta and the rest of the state. This is something that would grow a new industry in Georgia that is doing well 6 days a week, and it would give them the opportunity to sell a glass of wine and then a bottle of wine, which would promote business and be good small business neighbors and get people shopping and spending money across Georgia.
Thank you. In all fairness, is anyone else here to speak for or against the bill? We took the sheets up first. Just we'll make sure. I look forward to seeing you again next week as we discuss this. If there's no other business from the committee, we will stand adjourned. Thanks,
Thank you
sir.
so much.